Hello, everyone. First, I would like to thank you all for taking out the time to join us today in this webinar. My name is Vishnu Vaibhav. I'm an international student from India, and I recently earned my MBA from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I'm currently working as a marketing associate with Empower Financing, and I'm very confident today that this session would be very helpful for anyone who wants to know more about international scholarships and how to write the best application to get those scholarships. Today we have with us Maureen Clovers. Maureen is the Director of Social Impact at Empower Financing. She has 15 years of experience in financial inclusion, higher education, and consulting. And Maureen would be your speaker today, and she has been heading the Path to Success and the scholarship programs at Empower, which is a leading provider of scholarships for international and DACA students in the US and Canada. So I'm pretty confident that after reading thousands of scholarship applications every year, she would be the best person to answer any queries or questions you might have regarding how to write a successful scholarship application. Now, in just a moment, I would ask Maureen to start with the presentation. Also, you can get more information about our upcoming webinars for international and DACA students on our Facebook page. So feel free to follow and like the page. So finally, it's time for me to hand over the presentation to Maureen. I would like to quickly remind you that Maureen is the Director of Student Engagement at Empower Financing. And now she would talk more about how to write a winning scholarship application.
Great. Well, thank you, Vishnu, and thank you everyone for joining us. I know it's late depending on where you are, but I hope this will be very beneficial. And please share this with your friends afterwards. We'll be sending out a recording, so feel free to forward that to them. So I'm going to talk briefly about what MPOWER is in case you're not familiar with us. And then we're going to talk about how you can maximize your chances of winning a scholarship. There's a perception that it's very difficult for international students to get scholarships, and it is somewhat difficult, but there are a lot of resources out there. You just need to know where to look. And then I'll specifically talk about some of our scholarship programs, and then we'll go to Q&A. So who or what is MPOWER? So we are a social benefit corporation, which means we're a for-profit company, but we have social benefit objectives. We are headquartered in Washington, D.C., but we have an office in Bengaluru, India, and we are the only student lender in the world that provides fixed rate student loans that do not require cosigner, collateral, or a U.S. credit history. And just in case you're not familiar with the term cosigner, so basically that means we provide loans without a requirement that you mortgage your parents' home. And the way we do that is we make forward-looking credit decisions. So we look at your future earning potential and make our credit decision based on that and not on your family's income or assets. We provide loans to students at over 350 colleges and universities in the US and Canada in all fields and majors. One thing that's really unique is we were founded by two former international students, one from France and one from Iran, who faced some financial challenges and so wanted to help students like them. And social impact is really at the heart of what we do. So yes, the core is student loans, but we also award scholarships, $70,000 just this year. We are also, as Vishnu mentioned, starting this Path to Success series for all international students, whether they're borrowers or not, to offer career support and immigration assistance and money management advice. So we encourage you to join us and to invite your friends. Okay, so how can you win a scholarship? I like to think of it as a four-step process. So first, you want to identify all the scholarships that you're eligible for. Then you want to prioritize those based on how likely you are to win those scholarships, because you probably don't have time to apply for them all. Then you want to write the most compelling application and essay possible. And then you want to submit all materials by the deadline. So we're going to kind of break down each of those steps. So first, it's really important to understand the different types of eligibility requirements that you may encounter when filling these out. So there are need-based scholarships. So that means basically, are you low income? And often it will say it's only open to students whose families make less than a certain amount, and it may require supporting documentation like a tax return. Then there are what are called merit-based awards. So these are often based on your grades, or what in the US we call grade point average, sometimes a class rank, or other such criteria. Then there are scholarships that are geared towards members of a particular group. So it could be a scholarship just for women, or people from certain countries, just for Indians, or just for Chinese students, or just for African Americans, or even certain nationalities or immigration statuses. There are a few scholarships that are just for DACA students, for example. Then there are ones that are based on the school that you attend. So a scholarship just for students from Cornell, or there are ones that are based on your major or degree, so they are limited to those who are accepted or enrolled in a particular program. So a scholarship just for nursing students or just for business students. So it's important to keep all that in mind when you're reading the eligibility requirements, and make sure you meet all those requirements and that you can provide documentation of eligibility before you add it to your list, right? Before you're creating that identification list, because you really don't want to waste time applying for a scholarship where they won't even consider you. To give you kind of an idea, at MPOWER, we received about 1,100 applications this cycle. The very first thing we did was do an eligibility check, and our criteria are quite broad, but we immediately threw out any application that is not eligible, because that reduces the number that we need to read. So even if you write the best essay in the world, if you're not eligible, the scholarship provider will not read your essay. Okay, so how should you find scholarship opportunities? They fall into kind of three buckets. One place you should definitely start is looking at scholarships at your university. So look on your university's website. What can be a little confusing is it could be listed on your department's website or your school's website. So if you're in the School of Pharmacy or the business school, you want to look on that website. But you also want to look on your university's International Student Services Office website, the financial aid office site, and the admissions office site. And don't limit yourself. Start with the websites, but then I would also call them. Now, here's a pro tip. If you've been accepted by more than one school, let your top choice school know you've got other options and that financial aid is a key factor in your decision. So my brother actually did this with success. He was accepted to 2 law schools. One was Michigan, which is very highly ranked, and I forget what the other one was, but it was not as highly ranked. But he got a scholarship at the less highly ranked one. So he called Michigan and said, you're my first choice. I'd really like to go there, but I'm wondering if you can match this scholarship that the other school gave me. And it worked. So you want to stay professional. You don't want to, make it sound like you're whining or something, but you want to let them know that financial aid is a factor and that you have this other offer, and you could always attach to the email a copy of the other offer, and they may very well match it. Then you want to look at in-country sources. So check out your own government's merit scholarships. So I know, for example, Mexico has a program called FUNED. Colombia has a program called Futuro. Indonesia has a program. Lots and lots of governments have programs for their most successful students to go abroad to study. Then there are particular websites that are specific to students from your country. So one I recommend if you're in India is Buddy for Study. They have a lot of scholarships listed that are just for Indian students. Another way to go about this is to connect with people from your own country who studied in the US and Canada and ask them how they found scholarship options. Finally, there are some scholarship search engines that are not specific to any school or country necessarily. 2 of the biggest that I highly recommend you go on are IEFA.org and FastWeb. Those are great for studying in the USA and list thousands and thousands of scholarships. And again, you want to go in knowing what kinds of scholarships that you're eligible for so you can use the right search terms. The College Board's website lists scholarships, but they're sponsored by specific schools. So once you are accepted or enrolled at a particular school, you want to go to the College Board's website and type in your school and see what scholarships are available. And then there's several sites, which I'll show you in a minute, that are geared towards students wishing to study in Canada. But the key when going to these websites is it's overwhelming. There are thousands and thousands. You want to get really creative with your search terms. So for example, if you're a woman, you want to search for the term women, and you want to search for the term female. And then You also want to search for your country of origin, but put in both, for example, if you're from Brazil, Brazil and Brazilian. And then put in your major or degree program. So try things like if you're studying nursing, put in nurses and nursing. So put in all these different things, put in your university and see what you get back. Or for example, also put your region in. So if you're Brazilian, do not only Brazil and Brazilian, but do Latin American or South American. So that will give you the widest possible list of scholarships you're eligible for. And if you're low income, also look for those need-based scholarships. Okay, so here are some of the search engines. And again, you're going to get a copy of the recording with the slides. So don't worry about copying them down, but you can see the FAST website and the IEFA.org and the College Board. Here are a couple that are good for study, specifically in Canada, the Scholars for Development one, Find My Scholarships. And then the last one is interesting, ischolarshipgrants.com. That's for study not only in Canada, but also elsewhere in the British Commonwealth, like New Zealand and Australia and the UK. Okay, so how should you prioritize these because you don't have time to apply for them all? So first you want to read and reread the eligibility requirements and definitely don't waste your time if you're not eligible. You want to understand how the applications will be evaluated and determine how competitive you will be. Remember that you're most likely to win if you're applying for a scholarship with very specific eligibility requirements that you meet. So if there's one, if you have to choose because you don't have enough time between one with very broad criteria and one with really, really specific criteria, like it's only for Indians who are studying STEM who are female, you want to prioritize the one that's Indians in STEM who are female, assuming you meet those criteria. So it's really about quantity and quality. You need to decide how much time you can dedicate and then submit the maximum possible without sacrificing quality. Don't spend time submitting something that hasn't been proofread that's not very good because it's honestly just not going to win. You really want to make sure it's top quality. Sometimes what we see in our scholarship competitions is people send us kind of a generic statement of interest or of need. Don't do that. You want to look at the exact essay question that's asked and you want to answer that exact question. There may be times when you can reuse parts of a prior essay, but you don't want to just copy and paste it. You can maybe start with that, but you still need to tailor it and revise it so that it really speaks to what the scholarship provider wants. So here's an example of a scholarship listing. This is for our prior deadline, but just to give you an idea of what you might see, right? So when you see a listing, you're going to see the name of the scholarship, the deadline. In this case, it's July 15th. So you'll see down here eligibility requirements. So you want to go through each of these and make sure that you meet them, right? So our first requirement is you need to be accepted or enrolled in a full-time degree program at a US or Canadian school that MPOWER supports. And notice that's a hyperlink. So the first thing you'd want to do is click on that, go to our list, and make sure that your university is listed. If it's not, it's really not a good use of your time to apply. Then you need to be an international student allowed to legally study in the US or Canada as applicable, and it tells you then what the different immigration statuses are. So you want to make sure that you have that visa in hand, right? So actually these are very limited eligibility requirements. It's pretty easy to qualify, but you want to make sure that you meet those. Then you'll see usually the scholarship competition will also have, in addition to eligibility requirements, some sort of FAQ, which stands for frequently asked questions, or maybe it's called terms or conditions, or it'll be called selection or evaluation criteria. But you want to then, after you look at the eligibility, look at how the winners will be selected, because that's going to tell you the kinds of things you need to address in your application or essay. So here it says, and we've actually changed this, but for the prior cycle, it was, winners will be selected based on the short essay response. So that tells you need to write an essay. The essays will be judged based on grammar, vocabulary, and clarity. So when I'm reading that, I'm thinking, okay, so it's really important, especially if I'm a non-native English speaker, to have someone with great English skills proofread that, right? Creativity. Okay, so I want to say something that's unusual, that's going to stand out. And I think even if creativity is not a requirement, I think you can almost assume that it is, because think about it. we get, for example, 1,100 applications to read. It really needs to be something that's going to stand out, that we're going to be thinking about even after we've moved on to the next one, for us to say, I think that's a finalist. And then 3, insightfulness and power of stories. So you want this to have sort of a story arc, a beginning, middle, and end. So those are the things you want to keep in mind as you write your scholarship essay. And just to give you an idea, so we have 2 competitions going for this last one, Global Citizen. We had 788 eligible applications, and we boiled that down to about 30 finalists, and then had a panel read all of those. So you really need to stand out to get to that point. Okay, so here are some tips then. So how do you write a winning essay? And I think this is applicable not only to MPOWER's competition, but any competition. And I think these are also a little bit US or English world centric, but I think that's a good thing. So if you're applying to any American or Canadian essay contest, I think these are going to be good guidelines. So first of all, what should you do? Well, definitely answer the exact question asked. Don't submit something that's generic. Make your essay memorable. Remember that they're going to read hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. So include specific details and create an emotional connection with the reader, something that's going to make them feel invested in your success, and where they really feel emotionally like they want to give you the scholarship. Write in proper formal English. So don't write the way you're texting. Use correct grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And that goes with if you skip to, that goes with the next idea that you ask a native English speaker who's a good writer to proofread carefully, right? You want to write in a clear, logical format. So it's interesting, I was talking to a Chinese colleague of mine who was saying that in China, you start with kind of the less important ideas and your essay ends with the most important ideas. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that writing styles varied that much from country to country. But when you're writing an essay in English, the style is you want the first paragraph to be a summary paragraph or a statement. Then you've got some body paragraphs, and each of those starts with a topic sentence that tells you the big idea. And then each paragraph gets more and more detailed and has supporting information. And then you want to have a conclusion. Now, really important, after you've written it, go back again, look at those selection criteria and say, if I were a judge, how well would I do against those criteria? So in this case, how good is my grammar and vocabulary and clarity? Is it creative? Is it insightful? Does it have power story, right? You want to think about all those things. Or, ask the person proofreading it, okay, these are the selection criteria. How would you rate me? And you might need to go back and emphasize different things or put in different details to make sure that you really not only just meet the criteria, but you really excel. Things not to do, again, don't copy and paste a generic statement of interest. Don't write the way you text. Please don't beg the scholarship provider for money. Occasionally we get those. Don't tell us about how your mother died of cancer and all these things that befell you, unless that's really, really tied to the point of the essay, like your mother died of cancer and now you're studying to be a cancer researcher. And also, most essays have a word or character limit. So it'll say like no more than 500 words or no more than 2,000 characters. That's really important too, because most scholarship providers will not read anything above that. So if you write a wonderful 2,000 word essay, but they say they'll only read 500, they're going to only read the first 500. And if there's anything in the next 1,500 words that shows that you excel against the judging criteria, they won't consider that. So you want to make sure you're really concise and you're fitting within those limits. Okay, so here is an example of a winning essay from our Women in STEM program. And so the essay question, what we asked for is we said, please tell us about your professional or academic accomplishments in STEM, your future career goals, and how your degree program will help you achieve those goals. So some essays that we got didn't really address all the parts of that question. Some only talked about what they wanted to do, but they didn't talk about the connection between the degree program and what they wanted to do, and they didn't talk about the connection with their prior accomplishments, right? So But here's a winning essay, right? So this woman is studying biomedical informatics, so we know what her degree is, in order to understand the molecular orchestra constituting biological processes and address the illnesses arising from its dysfunction. So she wants to develop and scale AI informatics tools to enable precision medicine with an emphasis on clinical oncology. Well, that's a very clear, specific goal, right? And then the next sentence says, this program will extend my agility as a product manager, and then it goes on. So, okay, so we're thinking, okay, so again, the professional or academic accomplishments in STEM, okay, so she's been a project manager. Then in the next paragraph, you see, I lead a global strategy and market research program at IBM Watson Health. We're thinking, okay, now that is definitely someone who's very professionally accomplished. The other thing that it does is it tells us that she's actually likely to achieve her goal. So sometimes we get an essay that just says, I want to cure cancer, or I want to bring about peace in my country. But it's not clear to us that that person is already on the trajectory to do so. But this woman, okay, she wants to develop and scale AI informatics tools to enable precision medicine. Well, she's already at IBM Watson Health, so she's already doing AI work. She's already working in the health field. So it seems quite likely that with her extra degree in biomedical informatics, she can achieve her goal. And then the next paragraph, the part that I highlighted that we found particularly interesting was that she built decision support models, including one for the UN that was globally deployed and used in planning the Ebola crisis response. So again, that says, wow, this person has a lot of professional accomplishments that are related to her goal, that are related to her degree. Also, I didn't put it in here, but one of the criteria for this competition was whether the person has the potential to positively impact people or the planet. Well, clearly someone who's going to use precision medicine to help people with cancer and who has already used kind of AI and informatics to help fight Ebola is someone where not only do they have great aspirations, but that aspiration is likely to benefit people on the planet. So if that makes sense. So this was a really good one because you can see it's not very long, but she was very clear about her career goals. She was very clear about her accomplishments. She was very clear about the connection between her degree and her goals. She showed us that she already had accomplishments that made us think it's likely for her to achieve them. And she gave very specific examples. So hopefully that kind of helps. Okay, now the fourth part in my 4-part process, remember the first one was we identify all the scholarship applications that you're eligible for. So that's when you're talking to people, talking to your university, looking at all the scholarship engines. Then you're prioritizing based on those you're most likely to win. Then you're actually writing a great application essay. That was step 3. Now step 4 is submit all materials by the deadline. And you'd think that's not that hard, but we frequently receive applications right after the deadline. And remember that your scholarship provider often is on a different time zone than you are. So you want to adjust for that. You also want to take into account that occasionally there are websites that crash. Occasionally you could have Wi-Fi issues. So you don't want to wait till the last minute because they are not going to be staying up till midnight to help you with your tech problems. I would also say it'd be great to have a family member or friend kind of standing behind you as you're ready to hit submit, just checking to see that you've attached everything. Because some scholarships might say, you need to attach your acceptance letter or your proof of need or something, and you don't want to forget to submit something critical and then not be considered. And then finally, I'd ask, please don't contact the scholarship provider for a status update. At MPOWER, we find this very frustrating. Sometimes they will tell you in the announcement when they expect to make the awards by. You can check back on their website, but it definitely doesn't increase your chances of winning, and it increases your chances of irritating the scholarship provider if you keep contacting them, because remember, there are hundreds of other people doing the same thing. Okay, so now just to let you know about our opportunities with us for scholarships. So we have 2 competitions going right now. The MPOWER Global Citizen Scholarship, the deadline is November 15th, and the Women in STEM Scholarship, the deadline is also November 15th. And the top prize for each of those is $5,000. So you can find those On our website, it's just empowerfinancing.com. And then you'll see across the top, there are different options, and one of those is scholarships. So you select our scholarship page. And you can also sign up there to receive scholarship alerts. So while these are the two that we're running at the moment, and the two we'll probably continue with, occasionally we have other ones. We had a nursing scholarship in the spring. We had one that was focused on Latin America. I expect we're going to have one that's just on Central America in November posted. So you want to keep up to date with the opportunities, or just keep checking back. Okay, so we're going to go to Q&A in a moment, and I'm going to have Vishnu monitor the question box and ask those.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Maureen. And let's start with the questions. There's a question that can I apply to both the scholarships, citizen, like global citizen, and women in STEM?
Yes, absolutely. People have done that, and we encourage that. There was someone this time who applied for both, and I forget they won in one category and not the other. I mean, we wouldn't give you an award in both, but you maximize your chances by getting in both pools because we review the applications separately. We're comparing them against a different group of applicants.
Okay, so there's someone from New Zealand and they're asking that can I get an Empower loan or is it only for US or and Canada?
Is for people from all over the world. We can lend in every country except Cuba, North Korea, Sudan, and Iran. So if you're from any other country, we can lend to you, but it's for study at one of the 350 schools in the US and Canada. So if you're from New Zealand, but you're attending a school in the US or Canada, you, yes, can definitely apply for a scholarship or a loan if you go to one of those 350 schools.
And so if someone already has a loan with us, can they apply for a scholarship?
Oh, yeah. And actually, several of our scholarship winners are borrowers. It's just no requirement. And let me explain the way that we do our scholarship competition is it's blind. So we take off your name and your university and your nationality and everything, and we just read the essays and we say these are the best essays. So that's it. So some are borrowers, some are not borrowers. We have people who were borrowers and later got a scholarship. We have people who were scholarship winners and later applied for a loan. It can go both ways, or you can just be a scholarship winner or just be a borrower.
Okay, so Lukeman is asking, does a scholarship applicant's loan status affect global citizen scholarship application decision?
No, like I said, it's totally blind. We don't know your name. We don't know anything about you when we read the essays. So we have no idea of even knowing who's a borrower or not. So no.
Maureen, first of all, I would like to thank you for taking out the time today to help these students, and those were some really great insights and suggestions. We have a series of upcoming webinars that are going to be really beneficial for you. So visit our Facebook page to know more about those webinars, register for them to get the recordings after the webinars, and share it with your friends. If you had any questions that you couldn't ask, and if you have any follow-up questions after Maureen replied to your queries, please feel free to ask them on our events page on Facebook. You can also provide your feedback to us on any of the topics that you would like to know more about in the next webinars. And yeah, thanks a lot, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Vishnu. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Good luck applying for scholarships. Take care.